We are live. Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's 3 Prakim Rambam, Hilchos Isudei Bia, Prakim Vav, Zayin, and Ches. We are beginning with Perek Vav. Perek Vav deals in the specifics of how does one become a Nida versus how does one become a Zava. We already spoke Bechlal about how Dam, when it leaves the Makkah or the Cheder, V'chulei, that renders a woman both Tamei and Asurei L'Baila, but the specifics of Nida and Ziva, the Rambam stands by himself with a very unique understanding of how to make the cheshbon of the 7 and 11, 7 days of Nida, 11 days of Ziva. It's important to note that what we're learning right now, the Nida and the Ziva, is not something that's practiced for a long time already. As the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Zajac, B'nai Yisrael, Hichmiru al Atzman, that Afilu Reis Tipas Dam Kechardo, they are Yeshevas Olel Shivas Nikiyim. In other words, what we have right now is the chumras, both of Nida and of Ziva, as we'll learn the details, but we're going to learn the Ikar Adin, and we're going to learn about the Shivas Nikiyim and many other pratim to the Torah setup of the specifics of what we call Hilchas Nida, but really Hilchas Nida and Hilchas Ziva. Perek Vav has 23 halachas, and let us start with halacha Aleph. Says the Rambam, Dam Hanida, it's all blood coming from the same place. As we learned yesterday, sometimes halacha will define it as dam nida. Dam of a zava, literally the word zava means to flow. The word nida means to be separated. Dam hakoishi, blood that comes prior and connected to childbirth. And we'll see the halachis of that dam, l'shitas harambam. The dam hayoled is blood that comes from a woman who gave birth, not prior to giving birth. But as we're going to learn, we already mentioned Bekitzer, for 7 days, Tamei, 33 days Tahar by a Zachar, 14 days Tamei, 66 days Tahar by a Nekeva, and Vedam Toyar, that's the later 33 or 66 days, Shali Yeledes. First of all, even though this is a machlekes, the Rambam is paskening Kulei Dam Echatu, Umina Makar Huba. The Rambam understands that these bloods are not different. They're coming from what we call the same source. Of course, there's only one womb, but like we mentioned Bekitzer yesterday, that L'shitas Rambam, according to the times when we practice Dam Toyar, a woman can be bleeding straight. She gave birth to a boy. It didn't even stop for a rega. No half sektara, nothing. As long as she goes to the mikveh after 7 days, she becomes Toyar for the next 33 days. Even though it's called Mayonechad, doesn't matter. The Torah is the one that says it's Torah. The Torah is the one that says that it's Tamei. It's simply based on the times when the blood comes, which that will determine whether it's called Nida, with the consequences unique to Nida, whether it's called Zava, with unique halachas connected to Zava, and V'tia Royadam, Zu Torah, V'zu Nida, V'zu Zava. In other words, the Torah is the one that determines which dam is metama, which dam is bechlal not metama, and the Torah also determines what will be the dinim of its specific tumah. Halacha beis ketzad. Now, here there's a lot that has to be explored b'shitas Rambam. For many of us that learn Masechtas Nida and the Gemara, and we should remember not the Rambam's understanding of what are the 7 days and the 11 days. And then a kuda is not l'Rambam that when a woman begins to see dam for the first time, you should mark that date in a calendar. That date will either only be removed if she gets a veses kavua that we're going to learn today in the 8th chapter, or after a woman gives birth. Other than that, that date begins the 7-day period of all dam that will be seen or not seen. If it's going to be seen, it's going to be called dam nida. And any blood, if will be seen in the subsequent 11 days, will be called dam zav. But how do you begin the new 7? According to the other shittas, they only begin when the woman gets her period the next time. The Rambam doesn't hold that. Certainly, let me add this. If a woman does not have a vesas kavua, one resolution in many contradictions that we'll go through quickly today might be that the difference, what we're going to be saying right now, is only when a woman does not have a vesas kavua, which could be, and that is that you begin a cycle of 7 and 11 and 7 and 11, one adjacent to the other. So you have to push it. Remember, Rambam exactly when she got a period the first time. Or, that's the Gavaldic solution here. Kishetira b'shas vesta. So let's tie pshat that if a woman has a halachic set vesses, then every time the vesses comes, that is when you're going to consider that the beginning of the days of Nida. She's in Nida for 7 days. Beino asa. Doesn't matter how long she might bleed during those 7 days, one drop or the entirety of the 7 days, right? And if blood comes by Yom Hashmini, if blood comes on the next 11 days, now sometimes we call it the first day of Zava, or on the 8th day from the beginning, whichever one, then that dam is categorized as dam ziva mepnei shu beloy eis nidasa. The word ziva means a flow, and it's used when it's unusual for a woman to see dam. So I know we mentioned the nuance, this is kavua, this is not kavua, shelve that. The yasoid is that the 7-11, 7-11, 7-11 is consecutive. According to the Rambam, it could be, Shuki, that a woman won't see any dam during the days of her nida. Because if the 7 days begins right after the 11 days, whether she sees dam or not, it could be taka, that the next time she'll see dam will be during the times of her zivus. Again, let's go that when it's a ves kavua, then you only begin the 7 days. When she sees, when the vesses comes, harehu dam ziva. And even in such a scenario, halacha l'moshe mesinai, she'ein ben zman nida l'zman nida ela echad achad asa yom b'lvad. Here is the challenging words. No words. I just mentioned that if there's the vesses kavua, then the vesses kavua begins the yemei nida. The Rambam is saying, no, that there's only 11 days between nida and nida. Okay. But it's correct to say, as everyone says, Lashita Rambam, they go consecutive. There might be exceptions, but that's the general rule. Halacha dalet. Kol shivas hayomim shenikba lo vesas b'tchilasam. Right, the first 7 days, they're going to be called the days of Nida. And we're going to use those words here that Rambam emphasizes what we just mentioned, regardless whether she sees dam or not. All right, here is where the other Rishonim strongly disagree with the Rambam. They hold, what are you talking about? There's no such a thing. Whenever you see dam after those 11 days, you are beginning again nida, and it's dam nida. The Rambam says no. Let's go if there's no vesas kavua. No, you have to know those days. They're fixed in the calendar whether you see blood or not. Halacha mipnei ma hein akrem yemei nida mipnei shehem ro'uyim lenida. V'chol dam shetira bahem. If she'll see blood during those 7 days, dam nida yechash. Halacha v'chol achad asa yom she'achar hashiva. They are called Yemei Zivasa. The days are for flow, same meaning. Doesn't mean she sees blood in it. Bein Ra'asa Behem Dam. Bein Loy Ra'asa. Why are they called Yemei Ziva? Because they are the days in which, if blood will be seen, right, they're going to have the status of Dam Ziva. These are the days where a woman is going to, right, it's called the blood of her flow, meaning unusual, irregular, unexpected. Ru'yim Leziva. If she'll see dam ziva yechashev. These are b'shnei shemos elo, which are yemei nida, yemei ziva. So chevra, the first time the woman gets a period, according to the Rambam, again, the vesas kavua will change it. Birth will change it. Other than that, you put down 7-11, 7-11, 7-11, and then you have to see where the dam came. If it came in those 7, dam nida. If it came in the next 11, it's called the dam of Yemei Ziva. Halacha vav. Kol Yemei Ha'isha. Miyoim sheyakabal vesses achatamus. From when she affixes her vesses, like we mentioned, and we're going to have this today in Perek Ches, or she can have a Vesas Kavua, and that Vesas Kavua can be uprooted. I'm saying words for people that are married. We have to know this. This is practice today. Right? Tisper lo'olam shiva. Mitchilas yom aveses va'achareim achadas hayoim shiva va'achareim achadas hayoim. You have to be very cautious. You have to know if the blood is b'mei nida or b'mei ziva. Shekol yimei shalisha kachi shiv yimei nida va'achados yimei ziva. What breaks it? Elam kein yifsika haleda, as we will learn. The change of the Vesas Kavua can change the date. Leda can change the date, and actually at the end of Perek Ches, we're going to learn like this Mishnayos and what happens if a woman forgets. When do you begin the 7 days of Nida? Right? We say in Pirkei Yov, it's Pischei Nida. The Pischei Nida means, I don't know when to put down the beginning of those 7 days. And very complex halachas, how do you establish that? Halachas like, here the rule, my friends. If you see dam during the days of Ziva, if you only see it for 1 day, guys, my friends, 1 day doesn't mean she bleeds for 24 hours. 1 drop on that day. Or whatever, however she sees it, or even if she sees blood on 2 consecutive days, she will be called more specifically a Zava Ketana. And in order for her to get out of that Tuma, very unlike how we do today a woman by the Ashkenazim will always count first, you wait 5 days, then you begin Shivas Nakiyim. No, Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom. Not 2 days for 2 days, 1 day for 1 day. 1 day, either for 1 day, and 1 day for 2 days. She only needs to have 1 clean day. Not only that, as we'll see in a moment, if she goes to the mikveh on that day, she goes to the mikveh during the daytime of the day. Then if until the night came, she didn't see dam, now we're good. But now it's either going to be called a Zava Gemura, otherwise known as a Zava Gedoyla, or Zava Stam. Okay, as it says in Ritzoida, we have the general rule, anything in plural means 2, so Yomim is 2. The Torah adding the word many, Rabim, comes to add 1 more, a total of 3. Well, it's a lot. The need of counting 7 clean days. And as we're having a Beis Hamikdash, the Mehera B'Yameinu, the bringing of the carbon, not connected to birth, the carbon connected to seeing Dam 3 consecutive days, becoming a Zava or Zava Gedoyla. The other difference is Zava Gedoyla Mevi a carbon Kishati Toher, and in the brackets, Zava Katana ain't Mevi a carbon Kishati Toher. Avla Ingen Tuma, number 1, and number 2, the Isar Bia, which is the general application of all Hilchais Nida. Even though nowadays we're not yet practicing Tuma, we got to get used to it. Mashiach is coming. Tuma and Asura Labaila, Ushteyem Shavis. Equally prohibited biblically. The way out and the subsequent is where there is a difference. Halacha number 9. Ketzah. Doesn't matter what time of the day period. The day begins here like in almost all else from the night. But don't forget, guys, just saying it out loud, we're going to have this more today when it comes to what we call the vestois, right? So we divide every 24-hour day into 2 oina periods. The word oina actually means a period of time, part of time. The word period is confusing because sometimes we use the word in English period for the woman's cycle. But oina, there's the oinas hayoim and the oinas halayla. Unique for these dinim, we don't care about Seis HaKechavim, we don't care about Alois HaShachar, at least it's consistent. Shemesh. The oinas halayla begins from Shkia until Zrichas Achama, and the oinas hayoim begins from sunrise until sunset. Okay, but any time during either of these oinas, ben shura'asa before Shkia of the next day, that's day number 1, and it's halachically as if the blood did not stop to flow. And now what? So we said it's called Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom, but there's a nuance to that. Because in the Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom, the woman may not go to the mikveh at night. So that night she does nothing. Mishameres Kol Halayla. Now, if after the night comes and goes, there's no more flowing of blood, that would be done today, but what we call making a bedika. How would you know there's no flow of blood? Then then in the morning, the woman would go to the mikvah in the morning. After that, again, none of what we're learning now is practice today, but it's gavaldik to appreciate how we practice Tadas HaMishpacha today from where it came from. And then, so she goes to the mikveh after sunrise. She waits that day to see whether she might see more blood. Now, if she doesn't have any more blood, then we say, gavaldik. Now you get it, the clean day, which is keneged the unclean day. She already went to the mikvah. As far as the dinam of Isura Labaila, she's permitted. Now, we're going to learn in a moment what happens if she touches Kachim during that day. What happens if she was with her husband during the day? We're going to see in a moment. Everything will become clear. Halacha Yud. But if she didn't only see dam one day, but she saw any amount of dam, a lot or a little, any time during the second day, or night first, day second, and by the way, she could have gone to the mikvah. Doesn't matter. But she has to wait until the end of the day. So that is called the day number 2 of the days of Zivus. And again, she'll never go to the mikvah at night. She will be shomer that night. She will make a bedika at the end of the night. There was no more dam. She goes to the mikvah after sunrise. Doesn't mean right after sunrise, but the point is not night, yes day. Then she waits until the end of the day. Even though she saw dam for 2 days, you don't have to have 2 days of shemitah. It's always going to be one for 1, 1 for 2. But if she sees dam even on the 3rd day, whether she sees it during the daytime, whether she sees it at night, now and only now is she called herself a Gedayla, and this is the only biblical time that a woman has to count what we call the 7 clean days. As it says in the Parshas Mitzvah, the Sofra law, she counts for herself, Shivas Hayomim, and only then does she become pure. Furthermore, even when she needs the Shivas Nekiyim, she would not go to the mikvah at night. See, that's the irony today. A woman would only go to the mikvah at night, as we learned yesterday, 2 times. And one of them is after she's a nida. A nida, by default, doesn't have Shivas Nekiyim. No such a thing, midoiraisa, Shivas Nekiyim, you go to the mikvah at night. That was a chumrah the woman took upon themselves later. So one second. Then she goes to the mikvah day. On the 7th day, the same thing. When? After sunrise. And she's muteres labayla at night. Now, since she became a Zava Gedayla, on the 8th day or afterwards, she brings a carbon of a Zava, or either 2 Toidim or 2 B'nei Yoina. Women were not obligated to bring it the next day. They didn't have to run to the Beis HaMikdash, but she's called a Mechusar Kippurim, which means when Mashiach will come, if a woman becomes a Zava Gedayla, which happens a lot, for her to eat kachim, she has to bring these karbanos. So it's very common that when a woman would have an opportunity, she would go, and many times she would give a few of them for various cycles of seeing dam during the days of Zivus. A woman did not have to even wait there. So we learned there were 13 pushkas, right? Shoifrois that were in the Beis HaMikdash. Some of them were designated for the woman karbanis, and they knew because of the Kohanim's great work that if they're going to put money that day, that money will be used on that day to bring karbanis. And that was one of the sins of Bnei Eli that they delayed it. The women were frum, they wanted to make sure it's going to be brought, and they were not careful of bringing it right away. So they needed to wait there overnight in Shilai, and it was considered, the Torah uses very, very harsh words about them. Halacha Yudbeis. Zova Ketana, Shatavla Balayla Shliyam Hasham. So we already said she doesn't have to wait until the clean day passes. She goes to the mikveh during the daytime. What happens if she goes the night prior? With the same cheshbon. On the clean day, she's saying, listen, by Yidden, a day is 24 hours, right? She saw Dam on a Friday. So what's the Yoim? Shabbos. Okay, Shabbos by Yidden begins Friday night. I'm gonna go Friday night to the mikveh. I'm not gonna be with my husband. I'll wait until Matzah Shabbos. Or a Zava Gedola that went to the mikvah b'leil, the night going into the seventh, not the night after the seventh, which is how women go today. Says that Rambam Ke'ilah Lo Tavla, it's garnished, it's worth nothing. She's a Nida that went to the mikvah during the 7 days. So it has to be in the beginning of the daytime of the clean day. Halacha Yud Gimel. But this is fascinating to know what you say. Now, what happens if the couple were intimate on the 7th day after the mikvah? Or with Zavakatana on that Shemeres Yom after the mikvah? Now, she's in a state of doubt because Taka, if she will not see any more dam until the night, retroactively, it's clear that she was already Tahira. Umuteres Labaila. So and furthermore, when you give a person a cut, you can't even warn them. It's an Asra Safik. So Paturim and Akaris. Kivan Shatavla Bismana Royal Tilasa Tahira. But the Ishazu Tarabusra. But that's not the right way to live. It's called bad culture. Because you don't know whether it's going to turn out that Bia was Muteres. Sherebilasu Umaga. Maga means everything that she touches regarding to Mantara Teluyim. What does it mean Teluyim? It's hanging. It's hanging. We don't know what's going to happen. If the day will come and go and she won't see blood, then indeed everything that she touched after the mikvah, now we know is Tohaira. And if they had a relation, before they did not sin, they're not chayiv anything. But on the other hand, if she sees blood any time during the remaining of the day, then Limma Freya, she's a Zava. Limma Freya, everything that she touched became Tomei. Limma Freya, the relation was prohibited. Now, they didn't know that at the time. Why do you call that? You call that a shoygig. Neither, we said, is Isur Kares. The rule is any sin for B'mezid Kares, B'shoygig Chatos, you got to bring a carbon. He and she have to bring a carbon. Lefikach, he asura labayla ala erev, shalei tovi atzim ledei safig. Simple. Halacha tez vav. Zova that counted 6 days of Nekiyim. 6 clean days, and on the 7th day, boom, Dam came. You know when Dam came? Right before evening. That means she already went to the mikveh then. So Dam uproots all of the 7 days. And she has to recount the 7 days. This is something that we practice today. Everything that we learn. Chumrah, that's what we do today. You have to count again 7 clean days. In contrast, if Zera leaves the woman's body, which means that they were together, the couple was together. And guys, remember, halachically, when a couple is together, Zera can live inside the woman biblically for 72 hours. And because of Chumras, on top of Chumras, and because of Ben Hashmashas, we say 5 days. It's really 72 hours. That's why we always have to wait 5 days before the 7 days. For this din, because if Zera left a woman's body during the Shivas Nekiyim, it doesn't make her start again the Shivas Nekiyim, but that day doesn't count. It's Soiser that day. But she said it's Yom Echad. Just like the laws of a Zav that we'll learn, don't worry. That when the man becomes a Zav and he needs to count Shivas Nekiyim, something we don't practice yet because we need to have the dinim of Tum and Tara, but we're going to have to learn the dinim, Shirakeri, that's just Soiser Yom Echad. Okay. Now, Ra'aso dam ba'asiri mimei zivasa, uba'achad asar, ubishneim asar, a woman who sees blood on the 10th. What does the 10th mean? Guys, remember, we're beginning with number 1. The first 7 days is Nida. We didn't learn yet. By Nida, she goes to the mikveh after the 7 days at night. Now, when does she see blood? She could have seen blood on the 8th day. It's giving 10, 11, and 12. So now she has to count. She was Nekiyim 10, 11, 12. She have 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, which means that the 7th day, according to the Rambam, no matter what, is already in the days of Nida. Oh, I'm sorry. The 10th day doesn't mean from the day of Nida. It means the 10th day of Ziva. She sees Dam at the end of the 11 days, on the 10th, on the 11th, and
which is the first.
If she will see Dam on the next day, what will that be? Dam of Nida. That means she'll never become a Zav Gedolah. That's it. Ubishneim Asar, Afal Pishu Asar, Shlosh Yom HaChazeh, because Shlosh Asar, right? These, that's it, 11 days, the final day. Ein Zav Gedolah. Because she went straight from Zivus. Why is she until Nida? Because the Shiyom Shneim Asar, according to the Rambam, whether you see Dam or not, is Mitchilas Yimei Nida. And you don't combine these days together. You don't say since the blood began to flow in the days of Zivas, so therefore let's see what happens. There's nothing to see. She'll never become a Zava Yudayla. Halacha Yudzayin. Doesn't it sound like that you combine Zivus and Nidus or Nidus and Zivus? It means if she saw the last 3 days of the 11 days. Here you go, right after Nida, on the 8th, on the 9th, and on the 10th, which is also to be known as the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd from the 11 days. Now she becomes a Zavi Gedolah. What happens if she sees Dam on the 11th day? Now, what did we say? What's the din? Normally, it's Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom. What's the next day right now? The next beginning of Nida. So we learned before, if she goes to the mikvah at night, she does nothing. Here, what happens if she goes to the mikvah at night? Or Shuki, it's the night going into the first day of Nida. And not only did she go to the mikvah at night, she had a relation that night. Because mikvah at night is worthless. And with all of the dinim that we'll learn details later. And they make mishkav u'maishav, they won't be chayiv kares. Wow. Why? Because since the Rambam just established that the 12th day, which is not the 12th day, the 12th day is really day number 1 of the 7 days. The fact that you entered another period, there's the 7 days, and then there's the 11 days, which never, it doesn't, you don't force the 11th further. So it somehow diminishes. Carbon means if you did it the shoygeg for Isur Kodesh. The Rambam says there's no more Isur Kodesh. Halacha Yudches. Okay, let's go. The normal thing. She sees it on the last day of Zivus. What do you say? Wait the next day. But you go to the mikveh after sunrise. She did that. Let me just add a detail. This is not Midoy Raisa. That's the point that Rambam is trying to make. That's only us and Midrabanan. That's why he's saying there's no Chi of Karban. Now the Rambam adds, listen to this. Even if she sees blood, if she would have seen blood on any of the 11 days of Zivus, the Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom, we just learned that it retroactively nullifies the mikvah. Not over here. Ein bekach klum. Shedam, shezeh dam nidahu. And this is not mitzdaref liyom shalafanav. So why can't you be together? Midrabanan. Midrabanan, you can't be together. Because if people will be allowed to be together on day 12, which is day number 1, then when she's going to see dam on day number 8, she won't wait till day number 9. Push it, not to get confused, to be consistent. Halacha Yutes. Now let's go to the first 7 days. So we said that if she sees Dam during the 7 days, she does not need Shivas Nakiyam. Whether she sees it on the first day of the 7 days, even if she sees Dam for the first time or for the last time, on the end of the 7th day, as long as the Dam stops by Bein Hashmashes. That's why, for example, today, you can make a bedika of hefsek tara. You don't have to wait for the last second, but you can make it up until the last second, knowing that a moment before there was still a flow. But if she sees dam, now it didn't stop. One second. So 1 second. She sees dam at the end of the 7th day in Bein Hashmashes. So Chavra Halkot, what is Bein Hashmashes? We have a suffix, which means it could be, what is this dam? The 8th day. Zava. And now she sees it on the 9th and on the 10th. Harezu suffix Zava. Because if we say the dam of Bein Hashmashes is the 7th, then it's complete separately. She had a dam nida, for which there's 1 din, and then she only saw 2 days during the days of Zivus. It's for sure not dam nida. But if she would see now dam on the 11th day, she'll become a zava gedayla. But she didn't see it on the 11th day. She saw it at the end of the 11th, going into Bein Hashmoshes of the 12th. Bein Hashmoshes of the 12th, again, Harezu Safik Zava, Shemer Hiyachreinu B'Yem Achadasa, and then V'Hareinu Asa Shlosh Yom Zechazeh V'Meizivas. Now, guys, just to know the halacha that a Safik Zava Gedoyla has to count Shivas Nekiyim. A Safik Zava Gedoyla meets Safik brings a carbon, which is the case. Normally, you can never bring a chatas carbon misafik. A bird chatas is brought misafik, but it may not be eaten. That's the rules. We'll learn about it many, many times. Halacha chav. Nida, just for people who are coming on right now, just to appreciate that we don't practice these halachas, but it's so important to learn them. Because you have to know how did we get where we got? Malish. It's like a whole world that we have to become familiar with. Halacha chav. Nida shebatka atzma b'toich yemei nidas. A woman during the days of nida makes a bedika. Umatza shepasek adam. She says, "Oh, there's no more dam." Afilu pasek mashena linidasa. Even if she only saw dam on the first day of those 7 days. As long as she made one bedika on the first day, and even if after the 7 days ended, she never made a bedika, she never made a hefsek para to know at the end of the days of nida that the dam ended. But at some point later, she made a bedika and she finds dam. Since she made a bedika once during the days of the nida, so she already established it that the flow stopped. Then she made a bedika in the middle of the days of zivus. We don't say maybe she was bleeding the whole time through. We say now she saw the dam. We don't say that. And by the way, if that would be the case, what would she be? She would be a Zava Gedoyla. Right? She sees dam, it's the middle of the days of zivus. We don't say that. Because once you make a hefsek tara, even if you didn't go to the mikvah, there's no more dam, you presume there was no dam. Now the opposite. If she made a bedika during this, any time during the days of nida, and she discovered that she was tamei, even if it was on the 7th day, and she saw dam, she saw blood, she didn't make a bedika she should have during Bein Hashmoshes, but she waited various days. Various days later, she made a bedika and she was tar. Now we have a safek. Here it's different. What's the safek? Maybe now the flow ended. In other words, when you are at the ends of nida, you saw on the bedika that you're tamei, that there's blood. If that blood continued, I know it stopped now. Maybe it went up until now. Again, safek zava, shivas nekiyim, korbanos, but you can't eat it. The imatza tamei now. So then it's safek. But if you find dam now, you made a bedika last week, there was blood. You make a bedika again, there's blood. We say blood all the way through. Zava vadois. And now was now another day. The Yom Rishon Shel Nida, Afal Pi Shematzah B'Tohir, has the din as if matzah tamei, and that's why the Rambam in the beginning of Halacha Chav did not say that she made a bedika on the first day. She made a bedika b'toich yimei nidasa. It has to be from day number 2. Because we say halachically that on the first day of the 7 days, there's dam. We have to make that presumption. And even if she made a bedika, there was still dam. You always have to presume. In other words, a woman who made a bedika on the 2nd day of the days of Nida, that's good. That establishes hefsek. But not on the first day of Nida. It's not shayach chevra today. Today, a woman won't make a hefsek until 5 days. Okay. Halacha chafal. She made a bedika, as we just, a zava, not a nida. A zava is not meant to see blood. She made a bedika. When a woman has to make shivas nikiyim, the Rambam is paskening, which by the way, we pasken that way today to the Yevid, or in certain cases, lachatchila, if a woman spots a lot, that really you have to make a bedika on the first of the 7th day and the last of the 7th day. First day of the 7th day start. And she didn't make it on the 7th day. She forgot to make it on the 7th day. But she made it on the 8th day. And she found to be tar. We don't say, ooh, you didn't make it on the 7th day, so you lost them. No, fine. More than that, says the Rambam. If a woman did not make a bedika on the first day of the Shivas Nakiyim, guys, we don't pass like these dinim. No, she made a hefsek tara in our sprach. Then the Rambam is not even going to the hefsek tara. The Rambam is not even speaking about the 5 days. He's speaking. She saw down 3 days of Zav Gedoyah. Now she has Shivas Nakiyim. So if she made a bedika on the 3rd day, not on the 1st day, and there was no dam, listen. And she made a bedika on the 7th day, good, 3rd and 7th. Who adin for men, exactly like we mentioned. When men have to count Shivas Nakiyim, so ideal bedika 1st day and 7th day. The Rambam says 1st day and 8th day is good, 3rd day and 7th day is good. But then final halacha of gimel called isha shisafik nida v'safik zava. There's a doubt, and based on this doubt, my friends, that's how we are getting closer to how married women and men practice what we call taras hamishpacha. If you don't know if it's nida blood or ziva blood, so because of the doubt, but let me just say one thing, that the Rambam is only saying that if you're going to see dam for 3 days, because even if you have a safek, if you only see dam 1 day, if it's in the days of nida, you don't need Shivas Nakiyim. Even if it's in the days of zava, saying the fact that we add that Rambam is not going to how we practice it today, but here you already see if there's a doubt, you need Shivas Nakiyim. And another detail, v'tevelas when Belel Shmini, guys, why Belel Shmini? If you would know you're a zava gedoyla, you would dafke go to the mikvah during the day. But since only a nida goes to the mikvah after the 7 days, the night of the 8th, so such a woman would do like a stira. Mitzad echad, she's going to count Shivas Nakiyim. Mitzad sheni, she's going to go to the mikvah Belel Shmini. Another thing, since there's a suffix, and she saw dam for 3 days, she brings a carbon, like we mentioned. There's a chatos, and normally a chatos may not be brought misafik. Chatos or oif, yes, could be brought misafik, but it cannot be eaten, as we'll learn in the right place. Okay. Atkan Perek Vav. Chavra Perek Zayin is going to be speaking about the following 2 topics, which are very important. Number 1 is the halach of dam koishi. Again, we're not practicing these, but we have to know these dinim. Dam koishi means that when a woman is pregnant and she's about to give birth, so there is a certain amount of time prior to birth that even if she bleeds, we say that is connected to her contractions. And the Torah says that dam that comes from the womb, if it's connected to childbirth, prior to childbirth, does not make her tummy. Dam koishi. And then we're going to learn the yoledes bizov, oigavalt. And that's going to be a beautiful, oigavaldik, not gavalt. That's a very bad, it's amazing halachas. It's you have to put on your head, have a coffee, make push-ups, whatever works for you. And even if a person didn't come to the last chapter, you're going to get it. But you have to pay attention. We have 24 halachas in Perek Zayin, beginning with halacha. Again, bekitzin. Nowadays, it doesn't work that way. When a woman bleeds, she becomes a nida. We make things very simple, but it's very chamur. When does a woman who gives birth exit her state of nida? Like any other nida, when she stops bleeding. She stops bleeding, then she has to count Shivas Nakiyim, then she goes to the mikvah. The theory today, the practice was simplified, but let's go learn how it began, how the Torah said it should be practiced prior to the rabbinic rules and prior to a lot of what we do now is because women took upon themselves a certain consistency, even though it brings about a tremendous stringency. Chumrah. Muberes, a pregnant woman, that she begins to feel pain, and labor pains begin to take hold. Then and sometimes blood, right, will flow out of the woman's body even prior to the birth. It says that Rambam that blood is called dam koishi. The word koishi means contractions, right? It's heart. Dam koishi. Now, what's the din of dam koishi? Now it gets fun. If the dam, now again, according to the Rambam, what did we say? Not like the other Rishonim. The 7 and 11 are consecutive. Again, if there's a Veses Kavua, let's go, it's going to be different. It's not, we're going to get stuck on Perek Shmini. But normally, a woman is pregnant. There's no, pregnancy takes away the kaviyos. which means you should have to know when she gives birth. Is this happening during the 7 or is it happening during the 11? And look at the difference. So if that dam koshi came during the days of Nida, says the Rambam, Harei ze dam Nida. Now you get today why we're machmer. Because today we don't cheshbon the 7 and 11. We don't know if it came during the Nida. And just because it's coming from childbirth, it doesn't change the status. Both Tumantara and Isura Labailo. But if the Dam Koshi Pump happened to come during the 11 days, you have what's going on?
Even though she's been pregnant for 8
months. Yeah, again, the point of the Rambam is that the 7 and 11 have nothing to do, theoretically, if you're seeing blood or not. You have to know the Pischei Nida. Okay, when is day number 1 of the 7? You have to know that. Then you just go 7-11, 7-11. So then Arezu Tahira. Because it says in Zav and Pashas Mitzvah Dam Zoiva Bifsara. And from oral tradition, this verse means Zoiva Machmas Atzma. That when does blood during the 11 days make a woman Tameya? Only if it's coming Mitzan Atzma. But if it was provoked because of a fetus, because of a baby, Nisht. Tahira. But it's only if the child, right, God willing, will be a Lebedika child. But if she has a miscarriage. Yes.
Just to clarify, so for 9 months she's not bleeding, but the whole time she has to calculate 7 and 11.
Yeah, exactly.
That's she gives birth, and suddenly we think maybe this is not blood of childbirth, but it's the blood of Nida.
No. It's the blood of childbirth, but since it came during the 7 days, there is no heter on that blood. It makes her tummy. If that blood came during the Yemei Zivus, then we paskin from this pasuk that the Torah says Dam Koshi the Yemei Zivus does not make her tummy. Now, guys, you have to understand something. Let's go. It's in the times of Zivus, so she's not tummy. Right after she gives birth, or Yoledes, she'll be tameya regardless, right? She gave birth to a boy, 7 days. A birth to a girl, 14 days. Doesn't matter, but that moment. Today, a from couple goes to the hospital. Your wife is in labor, and they're thinking you'll be the mensch. You're gonna help her out, and you're not touching anything. And they're looking at you like you're from Mars. Like at least push the wheelchair. So you tell them, "Taras hamishpacha," you do it, because now and then you would know. Oh no, it's in. They would tell you, no, it's during the 11 days. Hello, help your wife. There you go. That's the big difference. Now, if God forbid a pila. Now let's go. Now we have to get into the details. 1 second. I get it. How much prior to the birth can you say, the blood came, dam koish? Many women can have contractions. It can begin, it can stop. Right, for us, we learn about this. But for the women, they know this. So the thing is like this, that we say that this is called contraction blood up until 14 days prior to birth. And therefore, if the blood was during the days of Zivus, she is Tahira. Okay?
Which you're not going to know until the birth actually.
I want to add another detail. You have to how many days are days of Zivus? 11. How many days are we giving over here? Now make that cheshbon. So here there's a problem. You have to say that prior to which, that's another chiddush, that we extend the days of Zivus for 14 days. But let's leave that just to be aware of the issue here. Let's go back. But if the blood, looking back, retroactive, the blood began, Shuki, 15 days before, with contractions, that never stopped, or more, no. Then we say it's not dam koishi. If that day was during the 11 days, it's normal she becomes a zava. And here, we're going to learn this in this chapter. If a woman who gave birth became a halachic zava, that's called yoledes bizav. And that's going to change many dinim after she gives birth. When we keep on saying that by biblical law, by a boy 7 and 33, by a girl 14 and 66, if she's a zava gedola, which means she's going to have to count shivas nekiyim, we're going to have to insert the shivas nekiyim. So there's something called yoledes bizav. If she has dam koishi during within the 14 days with other details, then she's not a yoledes bizoiv. Then we say no, she's not tameya. Halacha beis that we give her a full 14 days and say now that she gave birth, we look back. If the blood began 14 days or less, And if it was during the days of Zivus, she's not Tameya, if the contractions and all the other pains did not stop, right? A woman is in labor with these types of pains for all of that amount of time. But she was in pain, she had a labor, 7-day labor. The tone that I said it, if my wife would hear it, she would not be happy. 7-day labor, 7-day labor. But here's the thing. If she sees dam for 3 days, the magic 3 days is because if not for the labor pains, she would become a Zava Gedolah, right? Or more. And it was Bimei and there was pain. So we're discounting it. We're saying, the woman is already due. Mistama, she's going to give birth over the next couple of days. But that after the 3 days or more of pain and blood, there was a pause in the contractions for 24 hours. And the pause are only in contractions. Even if during those 24 hours the blood was still flowing, since there was a break of 24 hours or more, then whatever happened before is no longer dam koishi. You get it? Even if the contraction pain came right away back, and she gave birth right away. That's Allah. In other words, we only go back 14 days if there was never a cessation of the tsar, of the chevli leda. The im yodachar came, then she be called. Once a woman becomes a Zava Gedolah and she gives birth, now if she becomes a Zava Gedolah during pregnancy, my friends, and she counts the Shivas Nakim and she goes to the mikvah, she's out. But if she did not get resolve the tumah of Zava Gedolah, then she gave birth while she was a Zava. You let us visit. And by the way, this can be Zava Gedolah, Zava Ketana, just for the record. I'm not saying that the Yoledes V'Zoiv is only if she saw for 3 days. Then it's more complex. If you need to have the Shemer Shem Keneged Yoim, you'll have to do that at some point after childbirth. Because just because she gave birth, it doesn't remove the issue of the zivus. Halacha Gimel. Ra'asodam yoyim echad b'lo tzar. In detail, she sees the adam for 1 day without any pain. Vishnayim b'koishim, and then 2 days there was contractions, and then she gave birth. Then she gave birth, my friends, does not mean on the end of the 3rd day, after the 2, after the 1 and after the 2, which means what came juxtaposed to birth? Pain, or 2 days without tsar, but 1 day with koishimi, and then she gave birth. The day prior to birth was pain, or 1 day koishi, contractions, 1 day there was a relief, but then on the 3rd day there were contractions. Point is that the day prior to birth, you see the consistency was chavli leda, ein yoledes bezoif, ein but aval. If she sees yom echad b'koishi, Ushnayim beloitzar, the key will only be is what happened the day prior. No tsar. Or it alternated in a way that the day prior to birth was no tsar. The fact that the day prior did not have tsar, so we don't give the halach of dam koishi, the leniency. He's giving examples of 3 days because now she's a Zava Gedolah. And Zaklal, Koishi Asamach Leleda Ain't Yoledes V'Zoiv. Shoifi, the word shoifi means ease, no pain. But came Samuch, guys, don't confuse this with the next halacha. We're speaking here in halacha Gimel, day prior to birth. Day prior, because by birth there's tsar. Now halacha Daled is on the day of, not Samuch on the day of. Chol Shlishi. If the 3rd day is on the day of the birth, I feel like why? Because there's no such a thing as giving birth without koishi. Birth is the biggest koishi. You got it? Good. Hipila, God forbid. And we don't know mahipila. In other words, we don't know whether she discharged the fetus without bleeding. We don't know what happened. Did she b'chlal? Was there a miscarriage or not? Harezu safik zava safik yoledes. If there was such a thing that you don't know what happened, what came out, and we're going to learn many details about that later. Okay, halacha hey. Now, okay, whenever a woman is considered a woman who gave birth when she's already in the state of a zava, and let's speak about zava gedola. So who cares? L'may nafkamina. I don't understand. A yeledis is anyways tummy, even biblical law, either 7 days or 14 days. And we learned according to the Rambam, even if she doesn't stop bleeding, for a boy, the ninth of the 8th bleeding, she goes to the mikvah, and she's tahira for the next 33 days. After 14 days, the night of the 15th, according to the Torah, imagine they would go to the mikvah, and she would be tahira for the next 66 days. But now, because she was Yiladas B'Zov, that's going to have to change. You have to have the Shivas Nakiyim. And only then, v'toiveles, lo erev. Normally, when does a woman go by a Zava to the mikvah? During the day. Here, she's going to go at night. Why at night? Because a Yoledes goes to the mikvah at night. That's what we mentioned. When a woman, forget about Yoledes B'Zov. After 7 days, she goes to the mikvah, not on the 7th day, the night of the 8th. After a girl, the night of the 15th. So that mikvah has to be delayed until when? Until she had Shivas Nakim. Now, if a woman gave birth theoretically and she did not bleed by a boy, fine. We're going to see those 7 days that she's Tameya anyways could be counted for the Shivas Nakim. But you need Shivas now. If she was bleeding, let's say today, and after 30 days, you have a total of 40 days. The 7 and 33, those 33 days, Dam Toya. So how much Dam Toyer will she have? Only after Shivas Nakim. That will be the point. So and all the blood afterwards will be called Dam Toyer. Only until the max 40 days after a boy and 80 days after a girl. And then at the end, she brings two karbanis, because there's the karbanis of Zava that we learned in the previous chapter, and then you have the karbanis of the Yoledis. Again, this example, she gave birth. Let's say a woman b'chlal did not bleed. She needs to have shivas nekiyim v'toivelas. And again, the beauty here is that those shivas nekiyim, punct, anyway, she cannot be with her husband because she gave birth, because there's a minimum of 7 days tumah. But she has to count shivas nekiyim. The im yalda nekeva, the safra shivas yemei nekiyim, v'shalmu im arba asa shaleido ilachreim. She ended the shivas nekiyim at the end of the 14 days. Then she's muteres labayla. But 1 second, what happens if she does shivas nekiyim by a girl and the shivas, she didn't bleed, not bleeding, and she finishes those 7 nekiyim within the 14 days? She can't go to the mikvah. Why not? Because the tumah yoledes. So she waits like any other yoledes, and she goes to the mikvah leil chamisha asar. Ketzad halacha 6. Let's say she gave birth, and then the Rambam's days, these things probably could have happened. She only bled for 3 days. The Safra Shivas Nakim, and she counted Shivas Nakim, so now you're 10 days after birth. Now, if she gave birth to a girl, because she called Arba Asa, she has a din of a nida. Now, Shiva, why don't we say, if for the first 7 days she's a din of a nida, if for the first 14 days she has a din of a nida, so only count the Shivas Nekiyim afterwards. Because we are allowed to have overlap. The same days that are covering the 7 days of Nida after a boy, 14 days of Nida after a girl, whether she sees Dam or not, those days could be days, if they are clean, to count off the Shivas Nekiyim. Halacha zayin, Yoledes B'Zoiv, Shalei Pasak Dama. If she didn't stop bleeding, which is common today, what you're kidding, a week or even a few weeks, it can go through this time that you want to have Dam Toyer. We don't delay the Dam Toyer. We do not delay the Dam Toyer. The Dam Toyer has its own calendar. It begins 7 days for 33 days. It begins 14 days for 66 days, and that's it. Because she didn't do Shivas Nekiyim. We call that Dam Zivus. And if she did have the Shivas Nekiyim, then she goes back to the din of any other woman, biblically, that during that period of time, it's called Dam Toyer, and she will not become Tameh. Halacha number 8. Another detail. She counted Shivas Nekiyim, and she didn't go to the mikvah. And then she sees blood. When? During the days of Toyar. then she goes to the mikveh and she's immediately mutar l'bayla. She call yemei toyar einam ru'uyas le'minir le'ziva. In other words, today everyone puts it together: shivas nakiyim and mikveh. True, but if a woman were to do then the shivas nakiyim, even if she didn't go to the mikveh, she did the shivas nakiyim. And now we view any blood that might come as dam toyar. Aval atzmi shel dam, but the blood itself, since she didn't go to the mikveh, the blood itself has a din of tuma. Umetama kedin dam hanida achet titboil. Amazing, because guys like this, if she didn't go to the mikveh, even though she's in the time of dam toyar, she's tummy. So the rin is that dam that leaves her is also tummy. But the beauty is that she doesn't need anything more. According to the Rambam, she can go to the mikveh while she's bleeding, and she'll become tohira.
And then retroactively is matar.
No retroactive. No, not here. No, not here. Not here. In other words, she didn't go to the mikveh yet after she gave birth.
What does it mean?
From when she goes to the mikveh, going forward, then during the period of dam toyar that we don't practice today, she'll be toyar. Allah and she gave birth to a girl, and after 14 days, she gets pregnant again. Now listen to what's going on over here. What are we aiming at? We're trying to figure out what happens if she has a miscarriage within 80 days of the girl, which could happen, and it's after 40 days. That will be the key. And within the 80 days of the first child, God forbid, she's losing the second baby, the dam hakoishi begins to come. Now, how do you view that? It's also dam toyar, right? It's within the 80 days of a girl. How do you dam toyar? Falpi that we just mentioned that if a woman has a miscarriage, there's no heter of dam koishi. She's having a miscarriage. But it's also within the 80 days of the first birth. And more than that, but after she loses a child, if she loses a child, then she becomes tummy as a yoledis. So even though you don't have the heter of dam koishi, you have the heter of dam toya. If a woman has a miscarriage and you can discern which happens after 40 days, whether it's male or female, then she has tuma zachar. Mamish 7 days, and then 33 days. If God forbid she miscarriage as a girl, tumas nekeva. And all of these days are counted from the second birth. From the second birth. Even if a woman was pregnant with twins, and it's possible that you give, they leave the body not at the same time, even if there's a miscarriage, God forbid. She miscarried the second one many days later. When do you begin counting all of these days? Only after the second birth. Halacha number 10. If a flow of a zava stops, she's already in the middle of the 7 clean days. And during the 7 clean days comes the dam koishi. So nowadays, if a woman sees blood during the 7 days, you mark off. Not over here. If dam koishi comes during the Shivas Yimei Anakiyim, ain't a soiset. Not only that, more. Because she was clean from dam zivus during those 7 days. She's seeing blood. If it fits what we learned in the beginning of this chapter, it's called dam of childbirth, dam of contraction blood. If she gives birth during the Shivas Yimei Anakiyim. So you're kidding? This blood? No. And Ali the Sesaris. The day of the birth, even though she's tummy because of the birth. And the Torah says, like Tumas Leida, or Tumas Nida, or Tumas Toras. She counts. The aim Tumas Elu, how crazy is that? Amazing. Halacha Yudal. Yemei Dasa, the Yemei Dasa, during the days of her Leida, right? Im loyra asmem dam, harehelo oilem l'sfira shivas yimei anakiyim. So, like we mentioned, if there is no blood, even though she's tameya because of Leida, then she mamish keeps on counting the 7 clean days. But if she sees dam, so we said it doesn't knock off the previous days, but she's seeing dam. Ein oila lo yemei but v'lo yisrael kol hayomim. So she only has to pay the needed days. So she already had 4 clean days. She only needs another 3 clean days. El mashlemes alayom shesafra kashiv sekadam. She'ein soiser akol el re'iyah shel zoiv. Aber evo soiserim It only knocks off these days. It's when a woman is normally counting the Shivas Nekim from Yemei Zivus and she sees Dam during the days of Zivus, then is where we say she lost all her clean days. Here she doesn't lose it. And even if she cannot count it as another clean day because she's bleeding after the birth, so she waits until the bleeding stops and then she only has to count 2 more clean days or 3 more clean days. I know this sounds strange because we don't practice any of this, but wow. Halacha, Yud Beis. Once you properly take in all of these rules, we learned all the rules. Now you'll understand that what you say, you just say, it's possible for a woman to bleed straight for 114 days and she won't become a Zav Gedolah, which means she won't need Shivas Nakiyim. 114 days. How do you get to 114 days? Here we go, Kate. You have to know the calendar. 2 days before Nida. So we said, the Rambam Paskins, 2 days before Nida, the Rambam says the 7 days begin regardless. So then if she sees blood on the 3rd day, it's not Zivus. 7 days of Nida, so you're up to 9 days. She's bleeding every day. Then the next 2 days, how many days were we up to? 11. She did not become a Zav Gedolah. Now, let's say, pump, now she begins her contraction labor pains. What did we give? Maximum of 14 days. Even though, like we see over here, like I mentioned, really, Yemei Zivus, she's already 2 days into it, would end 9 days later. But here, since it's connected to birth, we extend it for 14 days, which means here she's going to have the status of the days of Zivus for a total of 16 days. But okay, so now you have 11 and 14. 25 days. Now she gave birth. She gave birth to a girl. When will the cycle begin again of 7 and 11? Only after 80 days. Let's say she's bleeding for those 80 days. So 80 and 25, where are we up to, my friends? 105 days. What begins after birth, after the 80 days after a girl? 7 days of Nida. So you can have then another 7 days, plus another 2 days. That's another 9 days. So 105 and 9, 114. You got it. And 2 days after the day, and she's still not a Zav Gedolah. Who tchilas nidasa, ve'ein mashgichin ala vesta shemikodim. He wants to establish that after Leda, after the 40 days void, after the 80 days, you begin on new Pesach Nida. Maybe that's Safek Nida. The point is that if Taka, this will be Nida, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is not Safek. You don't have to do Shivas Nakiyim. You for sure don't have to do Shivas Nakiyim. Either it's Dam Toyhad, worst case scenario, that's day number 1, and just whatever happens is regardless. And after 7 days, she goes to the mikvah. Halacha number 30. Kfar b'yarno, we already explained, Shanida should asa dam kol shiva, that if a nida, even if she sees dam during the entirety of those 7 days, as long as she can make a hefsek at the end of the 7th day, she goes to the mikvah that night. Moteres l'shamish b'leil shmini achar shetitpahu. Zovek Katana is making a recap of last chapter. Mishameres yoyim echad toyer v'tivelis, umoteres l'shamish la'erev, and as Zav Gedolah, seferes shivas nekiyim v'tivelis, umoteres l'shamish b'leil shmini. Ve'ein bein zman nida l'nida ela nachamal achad asiyim b'lvad. And during those 11 days, if she sees dam, she'll either become either a Zav Katana or a Zav Gedolah. Halacha yudalid l'me'achar shetizkar she'atiyah zoicher kol ha'eloi karim. That what? Now you'll understand when the sages say what they say, that Ho'isha shehusa kol yomeh yoim tira dam, yoim l'tira dam. We're going to, as an intro to the next chapter, we're going to start to speak about a halachic, a woman who's regular, but halachically regular. So it's interesting that Chazal, sometimes in the Mishnayos, we're not speaking about what we refer to regular, that, she's very regular, and every Yachvei's 10th of the month she sees dam, or in every regular interval she sees dam. They were speaking about a woman that bleeds the same number of days as she does not. So certain women, they bled 1 day and they stopped 1 day. 1 day, 1 day. 2 days, 2 days, 2 days, 2 days, 3 days. Because the Rambam is going to go through all of it, and he's going to show you what the halacha will be. All based on the fact that there are 7 days of Nida, followed directly by 7 days of Zivus, by 11 days of Zivus, 7, 11, 7, 11, 7, 11. It's going to be, if you would have a chart, what we're learning now is very easy. I'm going to explain it for the first or the second, and then we're going to read through it, because if not, if you don't have a chart, and some people takes time to chop, we're going to finish by mincha time. You understand? Today's Pedic. So let's go. So they speak about such a phenomenon. If it's shaykh today, I don't know, I don't care. The Torah speaks about that the day, what we call the days where she's physically not flowing blood, is this exact as she is flowing blood. That's the cycle. So let's go. One day, yeah, one day not. But chila mishameshes belel shmini ubayoyim ashmini. So like this, she only sees, if you go one on, one not, one on is nida. One on, one not. So she's going to see dam on the 9th day. She saw it on the 7th day, which is perfect. Works, because I don't care that she sees blood on the 7th day. She goes to the mikvah. She's good that night and the next day. She's good that night and the next day. So mishameshes on the night of the 8th and on the day of the 8th. The day of the 8th is Yom Echad Achar Yimei Nidos. Now, make the cheshbon of the next days. Think about it. She's going to see dam when? On the 9th day. She has to be Shemeres Yom when?
The 10th day.
Thank you. On the 10th day, she's not going to see blood. She sees blood on the 11th day. When does she go to the mikvah? On the 9th day. On the 10th day. She's only going to see dam on the 11th day. So when can she be with her husband? The night to the 11th. He's just showing you when will it be muteres labayla, when will it be yasa? Umeshameshes during the next 18 days, only 4 nights. I'll tell you right now. It will be Oir Liyom Yud Aleph. You have to push it, see that. Oir Liyom Yud Gimel, the night of Oir Liyom Tezvav, and Oir Liyom Yud Zayin. During the next days, it's not good, because during the days of Nida, you can't be together regardless, because you have to wait until the end of the 7th day. But it's always going to work, Shuki. She'll never be, other than the 8th day, other than the 8th day, other than them being allowed to be together on the 8th day, during the remaining time, they can never be together during the day. Because like I said, she'll go to the mikvah on the 10th, but she has to wait until the night of the 11th. They can be together on the night of the 11th, but on the day of the 12th, they can't be together even prior to her getting a period, because she knows she's going to be getting it during the daytime of the day. So that's vestois, that even prior to the period, during that oini, you can't be together. Other than the 8th day. So they can be together the night of the 8th and the day of the 8th, and everything else only at night. Don't forget what happens if she only sees dam, again, one day, one night, but not during the day, during the night. Then Eina Mishameshes Ella, the only time they can be together in the 7-11 cycle will only be the night of the 8th. Because she won't see that night. And then she can be together during the day of the 8th. But the next night she's going to see them. Okay. Halacha Tezva. Next case. Next woman. 2-2, not 1-1, 2-2. Now guys, make a halka. 2-2 means she sees the first 2 and she doesn't see the Aleph Beis, yeah. Gimel Daled not. Just put that in your brain. Now, when will the blood come again? You know what the blood is going to come? It's going to come on the 9th and on the 10th, which is really good. Why good? Because at least 7 and 8, there's no dam. 7 and 8, there's no dam. So she goes to the mikvah at the end of the 7th. At night, thank you. So she can be together the night of the 8th and the whole day of the 8th. Shemeshus Bashmini. Now, guys, halt up. She's seeing blood 9 and 10. What day does she have to count clean? 11. What days will she be clean? 11 and 12. Okay? 11, she goes to the mikvah. But when could she be with her husband? The whole 12. Amachayit. Works. The night of the 12th and day of the 12th. But then again, she's going to see dam when? 13 and 14. So what does she have to count clean? Well, she's going to be clean 15 and 16, which is good because she has 15 for Shemeres Yom Keneged Yoim. She goes to the mikvah on the 15th. She can be together with her husband the night of the 16th, day of the 16th. You get it? Shnei Asr, Shish Asr, and on the Yoim Esrim. Why Yoim Esrim? Guys, this is the Rambam's beauty. People get tripped up. Don't get tripped up because the Rambam says like this. She's in neither whether she's in the days of neither whether she sees dam or not. This cycle ends after 18 days. Okay? When did she see 2 days blood? On the 17th and on the 18th. Okay? On the 19th and the 20th, I know these are days of Nida, but she didn't see Dam yet. She sees Dam 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. Now, we learned that Midrabanan, she has to clean, she has to keep Shomer Hashem Kedek Midrabanan, which will be what we will call day 19. Very good. Or one, we'll call 19 because she didn't see Dam yet. And day 20, which is day 2 of Nida, she can be with her husband. Now, she's going to see Dam when? On the next 2 days. But that's already going to be the days of Nida, but she doesn't need 7. She's already in the days of Nidas. Okay, now let's go weiter. Next, halacha tezayin. Means she sees blood. Let's go from the beginning. Day 1 to 3, she sees blood. Days 4, 5, 6, no blood. Days 7, 8, 9, she sees blood. What's happening? If she sees blood 7, 8, 9, so Kodim call 7, anyways, until the end of the 7th, she's in either. Normally, she would go to the mikvah the 7th at night. She's not going to the mikvah the 7th at night because she sees blood on the 8th and on the 9th. Now, the good thing is that 8 and 9 doesn't make her into a Zav Gedolah. That's the good thing. The bad thing here will be is that once she becomes a Zav Gedolah, she will never be able to go to the mikvah because she'll never have Shivas Nekiyim because she is 3, 3, 3, 3. But at least in the beginning, once she can go chapa to the mikvah because 7, 8, 9, guys, there's only 2 days. What does she need to have? Day what? Day 10. Then she'll have days. She'll have days 11 and 12 where she's going to be okay. Oh, so then at least like we just said, not right away. What's 8 and 9? She's still seeing blood. The 3 clean days for her will be Yud Aleph, Yud Beis. Yud is Shomer Hashem Keneged Yoim. Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, she can be with her husband. So there's 2 open days. Problem is, here we go, after that, she'll never be able to go to the mikvah. Now, the Rambam is not going to other dinim. If a couple is, today you say go to a doctor. If there was no salvable doctor, then they would have to get divorced. But after now, you can't be together because now, once she becomes a Zav Gedolah, you need to have Shivas Nekiyim. Just because you are in the days of Nida, you need Shivas Nekiyim. If she's constantly 3 on, 3 not, she's always going to be losing the 7 days. Shivas Nekiyim. Halacha Yud Zayin. Now we'll begin reading it because now it's going to be the same logic. She sees 5 and 5. Aleph Beis Gimel Dalid. 4 and 4. She sees Dam. Hey Vav Zayin Ches. Here we're still good. Why are we still good? Because since she's seeing hey, she has clean Hey Vav Zayin Ches. At least she can be with her husband the night of the 8th and the day of the 8th. After Nida. But then she can never be together. Because my friends, if it's 7 and 7, then at least they have Shivas Nekiyah. In that in-between period, if it's between 3 and 7, you're loose on both sides. Halacha 18, she saw 5, and then 5 to Hayden, we're still good. Because what's the 5 to Hayden? Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet Hey. Guys, halt up. Vav, Zayin. I'm wrong. That's it. The Shuki. Vav, Zayin, Ches, Tes, Yud. That's it. Shameshes, Hashloisha, Smucham Lenidasa. 1 second. 5 days.
You have Ches, Tes, and Yud.
Ches, Tes, Yud. She doesn't see. Very good. Vav, Zayin, Ches, Tes, Yud. So you have Ches, Tes, Yud. Thank you. 3 days. And then she can never be Meshamin. Shalacha 19. Here it's even more. Now it's going to get actually better because now you have a full week. And and she'll become that week that during a 4-week period they can only be together for 1 week. From every 18 weeks. From every 18 weeks, they will be allowed to be together 18 days. Ketzad, Shavua Chamishi, she's a Zava. Again, this is all the Shita Sarambam that the days of Zivus begin regardless. 7-11. The sixth, Shavua Shishi, that's Svira. Shavua Shvi, she's seeing blood and she's a Zava. Shavua Shamini, Lasvira. Shavua Chi, Shiroibai. So at least here in the 9th week, 5 days is Bimei Nida. Shnayim Etchilas Yemei Ziva, which is great, because now Yom HaShemeres Yom Echad Min HaShavua Asiri HaToir, you only need 1 day. She has a week where she doesn't see blood, so you'll have 6 days where you can be together. Shavua Achad Asar Shiroibai. Shnayim Esef Yemei Zayva, which is good. She didn't become a Zava Gedoyla. The next 5 are the main Nida. Umeshameshes Chameshes Yom Mishvur Shnei Masar HaToir. Good. Shvua Shleisha Asar Zava, V'Shvua Amar Asar L'Svira, V'Chein Shvua Chamesha Asar Zava, V'Shvua Shvua L'Svira, V'Shvua Shvua Asar Zava, Shvua Shmona Asar L'Svira, Siferes Al Derech Zu Le'Olam. Nimsa Soimer, that again, Shvachol Shmona Asar Shavuos, every 18 guys, 18 weeks, who knows math, is 126 days. The total amount of time that they can be together will be 18 days. But if she would not have this illness, we're calling now finally an illness, equal, 7-7. For Hoisa Nida, Hoisa Shvua Nida, and the way, and 11 days she would be Tahira. Hayimeshameshes b'chol hashmeina asar shavuos. The cheshbon will be achad asar shavuos. Shehem shiva v'shivim yoim. Okay. Halacha chaval. But with man shiroi shvua tamei v'shvua toir, like we mentioned, mishameshes shmeina asar yoim, which is revia hayamim, which is a quarter of the time that otherwise she would have been allowed to be together. Guys, 77, which would have been the norm, divided by 4 is really 19. But we're rounding it off to 18. And that is how the Rambam explains the Mishnah Nida Daf Nun Dalid, that such a woman is mishameshes a quarter of the time. And when you make the cheshbon, according to the Rambam, it doesn't work. But the Rambam explains that Mishnah by saying a quarter of the time means a quarter of the time that a woman who would not bleed at all during the 11 days would be allowed to be together. So instead of being allowed in every cycle of 18 weeks, 77 days, in every cycle of 18 weeks, they're allowed to be together for 18 days. Now 8 and 8, let's keep on going. 8 and 8, then Mishameshes, she'll be allowed to be together 15 days in every 48-day cycle. Okay, and look inside footnote 13 with the question of the Maggid Mishnah, but let's keep on going. Which is good. Which means the 8th day is only 1 day of Zavos, which means what Shuki, she doesn't become a Zava Gedoyla, which is great because she doesn't bleed for 8 days. So you only need 1 day. And now you have a full 7 days. Now from these 8 days, 2 of them are Tashma Meisi Vasa, which is great because she did not become a Zava Gedoyla. The next 6 days is Nidam. Now comes 8 clean days. Now 8 clean days, I know she has to finish the days of Nidos. Say that. And then Mishamesh is the whole this the next week. But then comes 8 days to Mayim. 4 of them are Tashma Meisi Vasa. But she already became a Zava Gedoyla. Now she needs to have Shivas Nikiyim. Say Faris for him 7 days. And then you have only 1 day to be together. Nimtseis Mishameshes. Hamisha Asa Yoim. And every 48 days I make the cheshbon. 9 and 9. 9 and 9. So let's go. 9 and 9. Mishameshes Shmoina Yomim. In every 18 days, this is very easy. They can be together 8 days. Ketzad Tisha Tameim. What's the Tisha? 7 days were eaten up in the days of Nidas. Here's the beauty. You only have 2 going into the days of Zivus, which means what? She does not become a Zava Gedoyla, which is great. So you only need to have Shemeres Yemecham and Atisha Ta'ayim. And now, Mishamesh Shmoina V'chein Lo'elam. Final halacha chav dalet. I know it's a bit late, but we're getting there. Once it hits 10, it becomes consistent. The Rambam won't have to go 10, 11, 12. It's going to be the same rule. 10 and 10. 10 Tomei, 10 Toir. What's the challenge with 10? I'll tell you what the challenge of 10 is. That 3 days, she becomes a Zava Gedoyla. Even until 1,000 days. 1,000 Toir, 1,000 Tomei. The rule is like this: Yehei Yemei Shimusha Kiminyan Zivasa. The number of days that the couple will be allowed to be together will be exactly equal the days from when she bleeds in the days of Zivus, which means, for example, let's go to the 10 and 10. 10 days are tummy, which means she bled 7 days in the days of Nida, 3 days in the days of Ziva. Then we said 10 days are Tahoidim. Now, guys, from the 10 days Tahoidim, how many days can they be together? Only the last 3, because the first 7 she was Nakim. So you see, they were together the exact number of days that she bled during the Zivus time. Sheferes Mehev Shiva, Umeshamesh Shloisha. Nimsu Yemei Hashem Shloisha, Yemei Zivus Dama during the days of Zivus. I know she bled for 10 days, but the first 7 days is neither Shloisha. The Chein Mei Yom, it's going to be always the same. Tameim, Umei Tahoidim, Hamei Tameim, the 7 days is an either. The next Shloishim V'Tishim is called Zivus. You have to know how that works, because she's bleeding straight.
Even though it comes back into the 18.
I know that's where you have to tweak it with the Rambam. Hameya Tahoidim. 7 of these days are the Sfira. How many days can they be together? Shloishim V'Tishim L'Shimosh. Chein Aleph, Chein Kol Minyan Uminyan Al Derech Zu. Chavra, we're starting with Perek Ches. Perek Ches is very unlike Perek Zayin. For people who love numbers, Perek Zayin was actually easy. If not, people felt a bit intimidated. Perek Ches, from what we're learning today, is the most familiar with us, because a lot of what we're learning we practice. Perek Ches is speaking about how does a woman become a woman that has a halachic veses kavua. We're going to be learning about vestois, which means that if a woman does not have a fixed period, then in the next month you have to be chayish on the oina. Since last month you got your period of on the 10th day of the month, maybe you're beginning to become fixed on the 10th day of the month. Maybe you're going to get the next period on the 10th day of the month. So there has to be a separation for that oinas hayoim or oinas halayla. The Rambam is going to be using the same expression sometimes in reference to what we call vest hachodesh, and sometimes in reference to vest haflaga. Vest haflaga means that we're beginning to develop a consistency of the intervals between one period and the other, between one flow and the other. If it becomes consistent halachically by establishing it 3 times, then that's the only vest you have to be chayish for. And if you don't have a halachic vestes kavua, in this Perek, we're not going to be focusing on what we call oina beinanis, but we're going to be focused on chodesh and haflaga. How do you make a vestes kavua? How do you uproot a vestes kavua? Perek Ches has 22 halachas, beginning with halacha out. We should have woken up a bit earlier, but it is what it is. Yesh isha. There are certain women that have a vesses. A vesses means what we call vest kavua, a fixed. She knows exactly when the period is coming. There's certain women that don't have such a fixed cycle. Furthermore, she won't know that she's getting her period until she gets her dam. There is no fixed date. Now, vest. He means, what does a vest mean? Not more or less. It means sheyesh lo yom kavua. The Rambam is using words. You can interpret these words both for months and for intervals. He means both. Intervals of 20 days or every 20 day of the month. Or less or more. Halacha base. We're not mentioning oina benes. Remember that. But we're going to solve that for a moment. Halacha base, the kodim sheyavei adam. The Rambam is putting 2 things together, that women that have such a fixed cycle, they will also have certain bodily sensations prior to the getting of their veses. Tagish ma'atzma, either she'll be mefahekes, she'll be yawning, or she'll be sneezing, or v'chosheshus pikres, or she's going to be feeling anxiety at the opening of her stomach, or v'yistamer sa'ar b'sarach veis, the hairs of her flesh will stand up, or her flesh will become warm. There'll be some sort of bodily change that she will know, that's it, that's the period. But the Rambam is putting this together with the woman that has a vestes kavua. Now in halacha, we speak about another phenomenon. You can have a woman that's not with a fixed period, but she gets these sensations that Rambam is not talking about. The Rambam is saying a woman that has a vestes kavua will also have other simanim. And shall have all of these experiences, or one of them, or some of them, on the moment that she's going to get her vest. We already explained. That's in Perek Daled, right? We learned that yesterday. Perek Daled halacha tezayim. Shekol isha she'im veses. A woman who doesn't have a veses, what we call a ves kavua, the Rambam paskins, asura l'shamish ad a couple cannot have a relation prior to making a badik. Sheyesh veses. A woman that has a veses, asura l'shamish b'chol oinas haves. That's what we call oinas, or vestus. Vestus that Rambam holds midrabanan. So if she got a period last month on the 20th of the month, the next month, a woman who does not have a vesis, we're going to say maybe she's becoming regular. Maybe her regularity is connected to the day of the month. So on the next month, on the 20th, even though she's not regular, there has to be a separation. Now, how much of a period of time? Only 12 hours. So if last month she got her vest during the daytime, invested by Yoim, the way we practice it, if last month she got it that night, she cannot be together that night. Umetchilas Yom HaVeses, Tispar, you may nidasa, you may zivasa la'olam. This liner from the beginning of the day of her vessel, she begins the nida and zivus is problematic because the Rambam generally, I know there are exceptions, says that the 7 and 11 are independent of when she gets blood. So that's everyone's question, and it's 5 to 7, so we have the excuse as if we know the answer, but we don't have time to explain it. I think the answer has something to do with the woman. The veses kavua or not certainly is part of the solution here. And the Rambam in Halacha Gimel is speaking about a woman that doesn't have a veses kavua, but if she gets a veses kavua, maybe that's what he means. Then you begin the cycle of 7 and 11. If she establishes a veses kavua, perhaps. Halacha Daled. Lefikach tzrichos hanashim lizor beveses. Women have to know exactly when they got the period, and not only the day, they have to know the hour. I want to just say halacha l'maisa. The reason why you have to mark the hour nowadays is because when it comes not to the oines taflaga, but when it comes to what we call the vest hachodesh, right? For most women that are not halachically kavua, so a woman saw a period on the 20th of the Jewish calendar month. So in the next month, during that daytime 20th, the Rambam is only focusing on them not being allowed to be together. Correct. But aside of that, at least ideally, a bedika has to happen. When? After the hour, after the time that she saw the period last time. So if a woman got a period 2 p.m., she should lechatchila make a bedika after 2 p.m. That's why the shah is important. Now, a woman normally sees on the 20th. She has a fixed cycle. So she has a calendar. She has a very easy calendar because she has a Vesas Kavua. A big shout out to mikvah.org, and all the people that are married should either learn the dinim good the way it happened in our days, or at least put it in the app, and then you'll get a text. You'll know what was tutzach. So a woman has a fixed Vesas, which is good because then it's easy, but she can get it uprooted. So she only has to have the separation on the 20th daytime of the month. Fine. Now a month came and she didn't see it. You know, when she saw it on the 23rd. Once you have a Vesas Kavua, you need 3 times for that date to pass and not to see it for you to uproot it. But even only after the first time where a chayish, maybe she's beginning a new regularity. So in the next month, both will be a separation on the 20th and on day 23. For people that are not yet married, or they're married and they didn't yet learn the dinim, we're learning too quick to learn halacha l'maisa, but we're learning 3 Prakim Rambam. But exactly that's the way we practice it. If on the second month, the day 20 came and went, and she didn't see it, and now for the second time she sees it on day 23, and she didn't see it on the 20th, let's go 2 for 2. She still didn't uproot it because you only uproot a Vesas Kavua with a Chazaka 3 times. Oh, that means 3 months passed and she did not see it on the 20th, and she always saw it on day 23. Now you cross it off your calendar, which means Vinekra Haveses to day 23. The way I understand Shuki is now day 23, going back to today's first Pedic. Now the Rambam, I think, holds, and if anyone here online or can correct me, now you begin the new, that's the Pesach Nidin. The way I understand it, when you make a new Ves Kavua, you start the new 7 and 11, which is not practiced today, but we're learning the Rambam. Only you only make a Vesas Kavua when something repeated itself 3 times, and similarly, the Einim at the Heres of Vesas beautiful halacha 5. Kol Vesas shenikba machmas oines. Now, guys, when you begin learning 5, the Rambam's statement is very limited. But if a woman knows that what brought her period was some outside factor, for example, when she does a very type of strenuous exercise, the dam comes. The Rambam is going to give a scenario where she does the exercise, but she notices that there's also the day of the month factor. What we're going to focus on is the day of the month factor. It's a very limited scenario. Means if it's only this extraneous factor, then don't look at the day of the month. But now, a nuance. Look at this. She does a certain jumping, a certain exercise, and she sees dam. If, as we'll see, she's going to jump once and give a great example, and she won't see immediately after the exercise. But let's go. The Rambam gives an example. Intervals of 20 days. She jumped, she saw blood. She waited 20 days and she did that exercise and she saw blood. She waited 20 days and she did and she saw blood. She waited 19 days and she jumped and she didn't see blood. She saw blood on the 20th day. Then we're going to focus on the days and not on the jumping. Ketzad, she jumped on a Sunday and she saw blood on that day. After 20 days, she jumped again on the day of the week on Shabbos, and she saw blood. After 19 days, she jumped on Shabbos, and she didn't see blood, but after Shabbos, without jumping, she saw blood. In other words, once you have the interval of 20 days, that is when she saw dam. The vessels will be established not based on the oinus factor. In other words, even though that there was some external reason, focus on either the day of the month or in the intervals, and there will be times, like in our case, that we're halachically only going to put it on the haflaga and not on the oinus. Let's go back to halacha above. She sees it on the 15th of this month. She sees the period on the 16th of the next month. This is called dilug, vessels of dilug. She sees it on the 17th day of the next month. Now, I know that we said that normally you need to have 3 times to establish a vessels. Here, if you're speaking about jumping, you can't have 3 periods. You need to have 4 periods because it's not 15, 15, 15. It's 15, 16, 17. So you have to have 3 jumping intervals. You have to have 4 periods. The Yom Shmoina Asal Chayshal Achrav. You got it? Now you have 4 periods, but you have 3. And so, now, when is the vessels? What's the vessels? Shuki, when? For next month, what day? No, the 19th. The 19th. 15, 16, 17, 18. Now we're going to say that the next month on the 19th, they can't be together. But Asa went back. Didn't go on the night, went on the 17th. So first of all, just because she saw once on the 17th means nothing, right? Because until now it was jumping. You
had 15, you had to 16 to 17 to 18.
Beautiful. So now we learned that in order to uproot that, you need to have 3 times for it to pass. Aside of that, you had 1 uprooting. So she saw on the 17th. But you don't say that 17 and she had in the previous 17th. You don't put that together. So there's no kaviyos over here. Nothing is, shuki, it means the 17th is not kavua. The dilug is kavua. The dilug has to be uprooted by having 3 times go with the dilug and her not seeing. But you're not beginning a new one b'kavua. You know what it means? It means, I'll tell you what it means. It means next month you have to be chayish for the 19th. For the 19th, and you know what else you have to be chayish for? For the 17th. Like we had in halacha Dalet, because maybe she's uprooting the dilug and she's making a new one for the 17th. If the day comes and goes and she doesn't see it, if she never had a vesses kavua, if you don't, like today, if you don't have a vesses kavua, how many times have to pass for you to uproot it? Only once. If you only had it 2 times, what needs to pass for you to uproot it? Only once. You only need the akira of 3 times if it was affixed by 3 times. So she sees every 15th of the month. And so here again, both and the next month, 2 days will be asar. If only 1 time she didn't see it on the 16th, since she didn't have a kivius on the 16th, so then Nesa Shiva asar. And the Chamisha Asar is still Be'isur because he didn't have 3 times uprooting the 15th. Shinsel, Shemina Asar, Neshmina Asar. And now that you didn't have 3 months on the 15th, now you erase the 15th. Halacha 8. Like we explained. Higia Yom Esrim Veloida Asar. Shnei Asar Vero Asar. Still 2 and 2. Adai Shnei Asar. Higia Yom Esrim Vero Asar. Tar Yom Shnei Asar. Sharei Chazra Levesta Kavua. And the nekar shneim esrim mepnei shalei nikra shleisha pa'amim. Before you uproot it, if it only happens 1 time, it goes. It's chayzer v'nesh. Halacha ich test. Eino isha kivas liveses b'toich yemeni dasa shuro asabem. Guys, this halacha test and you have to know how to teach. A woman cannot establish a veses during the days of the nida if she already saw during those days. I'll tell you what that means. Kima shuro asa yom echad eino kivas b'chol hashiva. I'll give you an example. A woman cannot be kavasas b'mezivasa, which is, again, according to the Rambam, the following 11 days. But yes, avol kavas besas b'mezivasa she'eino roi b'hem. I want to say it like this, guys. This is what the Rambam is talking about. A woman sees a dam Rosh Chodesh Nisan. She sees dam Rosh Chodesh Iyar. 2. What happens if she sees dam on the 25th of Iyar? Now, when is Rosh Chodesh Sivan? It's during the 7 days. So here, since she already had dam twice on Rosh Chodesh, here, even though it's inside the days, it's in the 7 days. She saw Chav Hei, Chav Vav, Chav Zayin, Chav Ches, Chav Tes. That's it. It's in the 7. She will, in other words, she had 4 flows here. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Rosh Chodesh Iyar, Chav Hei Iyar, Rosh Chodesh Sivan. That's the anomaly because it's the 3rd time. Now the second part of halacha test will be explained in Yud. I don't have to say it by heart. The Rambam is going to write it. Then chosheshes, not for chosheshes leveses. We'll explain that in a moment. The whole vesa shenikra mezi vasa. I feel an nekra pamachas nekra because he can never make a vesas kavua. The einot tzrich halakha shleisha pa'amin. Because during the days of zivus we don't practice this. If the vest is going to be during those 11 days, you'll never make a vesas kavua. Which means, what does it mean? Chosheshes leveses, right? Imra asa dama vesazu. That means she sees guys 3 months in a row, shuki, dam, always during the day, a day that's on the days of Zava. You don't make a vesas kavua. Afilu yemecha teishiv lenida misafek. What's the nida? If you become a vesas kavua, what did we say? I'm going with my understanding that if you have a vesas kavua, that begins the Pesach nida. If this is now the 3rd time, so that's kavua. But on the other hand, you don't establish kaviyos by vesas. So that's the chashash. If this is the 1st day of nidos, then you have to wait 7 days. Basura l'shamish ba'oisayoim. Basura l'sham ba'oisayoim. Even without any of the iyah, the next month, because maybe you made a vesas. Va'afilo l'ra'asa b'shari mei avestas. In other words, we don't say she's an Ida. It can be a Zava. On the other hand, if she sees dam 3 months in a row during the days of Zivus, on the next month she does have to have a separation. The more she examines herself, and even if she has a vesas kavua, because it's always possible that dam will come. Another day. As we just mentioned, and she does not have to make bedika. But after Abel Achi Yemei Zivos, it's sort of lived like. Because according to the Rambam, again, right after Zivos, you begin with Yemei Nidus. So now you are in the days of Nida, Halacha Yud Beis. Yoshua B'lei Batka, Bein Ba'oinus Bein B'rotzim, Hareizu B'cheskas Taro. Acha Tiftik V'tim Sotomi. Since the Rambam holds Vestais Amid Rabbanan, so whenever what we call a Vestas comes and she didn't make a bedika, afterwards, B'cheskas Tohira. By the way, we say that by your oina bainan even after the day came and went, you got to make a bedika, but not for the vestas, not for hachodesh, not for haflaga. That's the way we pass. She didn't make that examination. And she finds she's tummy. Now, as we learn regarding the dinim of tumah and taro, but that's only regarding tumah and taro. But not even regarding the din, if a man is boyol nida, God forbid, he becomes tummy for 7 days, that we won't say. Since Vesta is midrabanan, harezu eina metames boyalo lamafreya, and also the eina moina ela mishosheru aso adam. V'im matza atzma tohira, harezu becheskas tahar. Allah yudal. Chen yeshosheru aso adam achmas makor. Sheyesh leba makor, as we learned yesterday. Afa pisheru aso b'shas Vesta. As long as we know it's coming from a wound, she's tohira, vadam tohir. Because since Vesta is midevreyam, even though we say you have to be chayish, but it's not vadai. So we can blame it on the makkah. Halacha tezvav. Hasuma, if a woman is blind, she can be boidik herself. But she can't look at it. She has to show it to her friend. But a woman who's not fully developed, they actually physically make a bedika on them to establish if they have a vest, and only then will we know if they can be with their husbands. Halacha tezayin. Here we go, the final topic of this chapter. A woman got confused and she doesn't know when the days of her nida begin. When the Rambam says she doesn't know Eis Vestam, we're practicing like Rambam 7 and 11. She doesn't know when to begin it. And now she sees Dam, so now she has to be Chayish Lizivus, which means she has to take the stringencies of both nida and ziva, as the Rambam will explain Lefika. If she sees Dam, maybe it's nida. If it's nida, she has to wait until the end of the 7 days because maybe it's not nida. If she sees for 3 days, then you have to have shivas nikiyim because maybe it's zivasa. Now, how are you masakin it? You don't want to live your life in a doubt. So the Rambam actually has a relatively easy solution. The Ketzad he oisel sakin besta. The leida imi zava vadois shafik zava. The leida yemei zivasa. So hakar lefi yomim shetira bahem. Ketzad. Like we said, we have to be chayish. It's the beginning of her nida. So first wait until the 7 days pass. And now she should begin to count 11 days after the 7. And after that, she will start anew, as the Rambam will explain. Halacha yudches. If she sees 3 days, or if she only sees 1 or 2, she did not become a Zova Gedoyla. So Pashit, wait until those 7, finish the 7 days, 11 days zivus, and then you go on. But if you see 3 days, now you have a suffix Zova. Because Shema Yoimecha Nehem was Kaidam Lenidasa and 2 was from the Nida. The Chenim Ra'asu Arba, you have a suffix. Maybe 2 days was before the Nida and 2 in the Nida. No, you don't know if it's 3 of Zivus. You don't know. And therefore, you have to be everything. You have to wait 5 more days for the days of Nida. And when you only begin counting the 11 days after the 9 days, when the Dam finished. Why? Because up until 11, you still have the doubt. 2, my friend, 7 and 2. That's 11. And now, but now we begin. If she sees Dam straight for 12 days, now Vadai she's a Zava. No matter how you put those 12 days, let's stretch it the max. 7 days Nida. But now you got 3 days after the Nida. First of all, if that will be the case, how many days do you have left from the 8? If you already ate up 3, you have 8 more days. You begin to deduct afterwards. Even if she sees Dam straight for 1,000 days, all you need to do is to count 7 days. And after the 7 days, you begin the days of Nida again. A final halacha of base. There'll never be a time that you'll have less than 7 clean days. But there'll never be a time where you'll have to wait 17 days. Now, the Rambam is going to begin in Ketzad in the 17 days. If you only see 1 day, it's simple. Guys, 17 and 11 is 18 days. So there you go. If she sees 1 day and the Dam stops, now you wait 17 days. Because what's the biggest case scenario? Maybe the Dam was taka the first day of Nida. So therefore, 6 days, Latash Nidas, and now another 11 days for Zivas. And now you begin the days of Nida. But on the other hand, from the 13 days, let's go to the opposite direction. Or more, well, you have to have Shivas Nikiyim, that's all you need. And then to be continued.